Hey everyone, James Lynch here for OddsChecker US, doing my breakdown of Saturday night's UFC Vegas 14 main event, which features Rafael dos Anjos taking on a short notice replacement in Paul Felder. This is a really interesting fight, and it's going to be taking place at the Apex in Las Vegas. It was supposed to be Rafael dos Anjos and Islam Makhachev, a teammate of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Makhachev is out due to staph infection, so Felder takes this fight on less than a week's notice, so that right off the bat, that's a bit of a concern because Felder didn't get a proper training camp for this one. He is a regular lightweight, though, unlike dos Anjos. Dos Anjos is going to be dropping down to lightweight for the first time since 2016. And let's not forget, he has fought primarily in his career at 155. That's where he was a lightweight champion for a while. So he's going back to a familiar weight class for him. But the data shows that most fighters that get up there in age, in dos Anjos' case, 36 years old, typically don't do well when they drop down a weight class. So definitely Felder being a regular lightweight, someone that hasn't bounced around weight classes, the advantage is going to go to him in that regard as far as being a regular 155-pound fighter. Now, dos Anjos has had a bit of a rough go in his last couple fights. He's actually lost 4 of his last 5 fights, but those are against really top-ranked welterweights: Michael Chiesa, Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, the welterweight champion, and of course Colby Covington, the former interim champion. He did have a nice win in between there over Kevin Lee, who is back down to lightweight, so that was a good win for him at the time. It still shows, in my opinion, that dos Anjos is still a top fighter. I just think it's a matter of him fighting really top-notch competition. And speaking of top-notch competition, Paul Felder's last fight was razor close. He ended up losing a decision to Dan Hooker earlier this year, but that fight took place in Auckland, New Zealand, which is the home of Dan Hooker. Some people felt like the judges might have given some home cooking in that fight, given the nod to Hooker. So nonetheless, Felder, outside that loss, has looked pretty good, winning 2 of his last 3 fights prior to losing to Dan Hooker. So it'll be interesting to see what Felder's able to do in this fight. Physically and age-wise and all that, they're all pretty much similar here. Paul Felder and Rafael dos Anjos, both 36 years old. Paul Felder 5'11", Rafael dos Anjos is 5'8", and Paul Felder has a 70.5-inch reach, whereas dos Anjos has a 70-inch reach. So physically, they're pretty similar here. Felder, no more of a striker. He's got a lot of knockouts on his resume. Obviously, if this stays standing, I think you give the edge to Felder. But dos Anjos has some stand-up power as well. We've seen him get some knockouts, him hold his own in the stand-up. But definitely, dos Anjos has the edge on the mat. So it'll be interesting to see where this fight ends up. If it does stay standing, maybe you give a little bit of an edge there to Paul Felder. If not, you'd have to go with RDA in that one. Now, the betting odds currently have RDA as the favorite. I tend to agree with that. Dos Anjos was preparing for a fight on Saturday night. Well, Felder wasn't. He didn't get a proper training camp in this one. So when you have a fight that's this close in terms of 2 guys that are pretty similar physically, I mean, an edge in experience definitely goes to dos Anjos, and the fact that he's a former champion, I think you have to lean towards Rafael dos Anjos in this fight. Personally, I would stay away from this one. There's too many variables in this one, with dos Anjos dropping down to lightweight for the first time since 2016, and with Felder not getting a proper camp. I don't feel comfortable picking either guy, but I have to pick someone here today, so I am going to go with Rafael dos Anjos. I think he edges it out by decision, but if Paul Felder pulls this off, would not surprise me at all. We just don't know what type of Paul Felder we're going to get because, like I said, hasn't fought since February, hasn't had a proper training camp. We hear he's been doing triathlons, but he's also been doing a lot of desk work for the UFC. So how much training is he really getting ahead of this fight? So I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts below. Who are you picking on Saturday night? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Lynch on Sports, and make sure you subscribe to the OddsChecker US YouTube channel, where you'll find my breakdowns every single week, as well as some of my interviews. So thanks so much for watching. I'm James Lynch, and have a good one.